Okay, greetings and welcome to the show. Today's star is this Hewlett-Packard T410, I think it is. Looking on its little groovy label. T510 thin client. So the thin client is a stripped down PC. This one using a quite unusual VIA chipset, integrated chipset processor, low power processor and graphics option, and these were used for small desktop applications or access to large network computing. A few years ago you can pick one up. I think I got this one for $25. That's around 12.5 quid in real money, and interesting little processing options. Now the limitation of this device is it's 1 GB flash memory, which means it can only generally either run off a Linux kernel or Windows embedded version 7 or 8 or whatever. But I've got a use for this, and I'm going to try and install Windows XP on it, and as a Windows XP installs about 1.4 gigabytes, that means I need to do something with the drives. Now fortunately the thin client has a SATA connector, although it's not big enough to directly attach a drive to, or the space around it isn't. So the SATA connector, so I bought this on Trade Me here, you can get one on eBay, and this is a male to female SATA disk drive cable, which gives me that extended space. There's not going to be a lot of space in the box, so I've got options of a 2.5 inch 500 gigabyte drive, and if I can save the money and space I will, and I'll put this old 3.5 inch 160 gigabyte drive in. I've got Windows XP on a USB stick installable. I think I used a program and application. You look up how to do that online once you get the install disk, how to put it onto an installable USB drive like that. I might swap the memory out. There's one slice in there, 2 gigabytes. I might put some slower in because XP shouldn't be too demanding. Then of course my 14 inch monitor, don't laugh like I did, and a keyboard to test it all out. So first thing to do is I'm going to take off, there's just one screw at the top of the case here. This plastic piece will then slide forward and unclip, and then the one side that needs to come off will then slide up and come away, and I'll speak to you again around there. And voila, the top piece has come away, the black piece down there clips out and slides out. I do have to congratulate HP on their accessibility options, desktops and thin clients around this time, really making an IT guy's job easily by making things accessible. Now this metal panel here has a number of screws, 1, 2, 3 and 4, which will take out, and then there is a gummed section which attaches it to the controller, so it'll be a bit sticky to pull off, but if you just pull off here you'll find it's clipped in at the front, but that should then come away, which is my next section now. And again, with the side off, we can see the cooling unit over the CPU, maybe the graphics processor or the I/O processor. We've got our memory slice here, which I'll be taking out, unclipping and taking out just like you would with any laptop. And if it's faster than the 2 gigabyte slice that I've got, then I'll swap it over. We've got our flash drive here, the 1 gigabyte, not really useful for very much. I could probably put Windows 3 on it, just probably won't have the drivers for the rest of the system then. And then here is our SATA connector. As I said, if we try to actually plug a drive directly into that, it wouldn't. Wouldn't fit, and of course it would stick out the top and look unsightly. So the cable should make that neater. I did think about getting this bigger drive in, but there's actually nowhere for it to go, so it will have to be a 2.5 inch disc. Okay, so I'm going to just take that slice out and check it against this one to see which is best, and put that in. With the Windows XP would have run on 512 megabytes happily back in the day, so 2 gigabytes a lot, and it's much quicker memory, so I'll put the slower piece in here and save the faster one for another application. So I'll take that in and out, and then I'll be installing the drive on there, and then probably put it back together. The one video I saw actually showed them taking this heatsink out, but the drive actually will fit in under there quite nicely and be held relatively well in place. Obviously you don't want it to be jumping around when you're moving it, so if you want to put a plastic or a piece of card in between there, a piece of Milex film in between there to stop any jump in, I'll do that too. Oop, there. Alright, see you in a minute. Okay, just a brief show of the sandwich work. There's the drive in there. There's a piece of material behind it to prevent any contacts with the circuit board. And I don't imagine that this will get very hot or be very extended use. The cable's a bit of a tricky because it's long, so I've looped it round this way. I put it into the drive first and loaded the drive in, and then I've looped it round here, back through, and then round and plugged the motherboard one in first, making sure that they're both in fully. That should be backed up. I did change the memory card out, so I'll put the side. I'll just put this metal side part on and then connect it up, and we'll give it its first. A little bit extra. So one of the reasons this might be useful to people if it's running Windows XP is it's parallel port. If you're running some older control machinery, I'm going to be running a piece of software called TechSoft 2D Design, and we're connecting through a USB into a parallel port of a machine that will not accept that there's no Roland Cam 1 vinyl cutter, and there's just simply no driver been written for Windows 7, 8 and 10. It might be possible. I have seen Windows 10 running on one of these machines. I would recommend 4GB of RAM if you're going to attempt that, but other than that, just the cables are in. And yeah, I knew there was another smart feature. There's a couple of hidden USB devices. So if you wanted to run off Ubuntu and not off a pen drive and not have somebody have access to the pen drive, you can actually do that too. Okay, I think I'm ready to switch on. I'll put the boot key in. I'm going to try and get into the BIOS first of all. It's usually a delete or F10 or F2. I've got something. Okay, so we're into that pretty standard old-fashioned BIOS. Usually more than a few of these. System information, processor speed. It's accepted the memory via Eden thing client. All happy there. Go back out, and I want to get to the. It's detected the secondary hard disk as 500GB, and it's supported. Now, I don't know how healthy this disk drive is actually, but we'll get around that. The date and time are right, and its primary ID master there. Right, first boot device. I've got the. I'm going to set it from here to go into the bootable USB device, and then now I should accept a second HDD. Hopefully at some point. To get it to select the larger drive as its primary boot drive. So done that. When it's all done and set, I'll go to F10 and escape and then save and exit. So I'm booting from the pen drive. I think I use UNet booting, an application to slipstream, they call it, the Windows XP onto this USB stick. Select number 1, and then we'll see Windows XP installation begin. Not seen it for a while. I used to see it all the time. Checking our thing and installing our drivers. So I'll get back to you hopefully when it gives me the option to install them. Okay, zoom in to get some details. It's showing here the drives available to me. The first drive C, we can see 976. That's not big enough. That's the flash drive, and then we've got the D partition. We've got some partition space on here which we can delete and reassign to FAT32. Not really format, we'll probably just delete it, and then that's where we're going to install the software, and then of course the pen drive. The third one, don't try and install it onto itself. Okay, So I'm going to select that, delete the selected partition. And delete the selected partition. And we should have a large unpartitioned space. Which will format to NTFS. Okay. We'll let you know how the installation's going during the installation. It's at times like this that you're thankful if you grew up in the days when you used to have to load computer programs from tape cassette and they counted slowly the minutes, because this is going to be about the same. We can see the file transfer rate going on here ever so slowly through USB. It's probably a USB 2 doing its best, and the percentage still been on 1% since I started recording. May go to 2% around a bit from now. So this looks like it's going to be an hour or two, so I'm going to go off and do something else. Have a good time, be nice to each other. Still on 1%. 2, woohoo, and a yellow bar. Get in. 3/4 of an hour in, and we are 52%. File's still moving, so I'll take that as working. So here we are after one restart. We did have to take out the flash drive because it wouldn't allow me to boot from another drive until I did. But then it's defaulted to booting from the hard drive. You've got a little hard drive access light flickering on and off there, and there we have it. Windows XP, and I should be able to now install all the software normally through the USB drive, including the 2D design package, to run the Final Cut up, and that's me happy. And HP ThinKlier T510 retasked. Have a good time, be nice to each other. Okay, well, just in closing this little project off, we've got Windows XP installed and running. I wanted to, as the nerd that I am, I wanted to get the proper drivers installed. Hewlett Packard only list drivers for the operating systems they release with the thin client, so that's Windows 7 embedded and Windows 2009 embedded. So you do a little bit deeper research. If you go onto the Hewlett Packard specification site, you find it's a via Think KX600 chipset. You'd have to check that. You can then do a search for via KX600 chipset drivers. You'll find various motherboards using the same system, and you can find drivers in there. So I got the chipset drivers. That's just to help with the motherboard configuration, and the AGP bridge. I think if there isn't one built in, they still need the driver for it. And then the VGA driver for the Hyperion via chipset, which seems to be a resurrected S3, taking it back to quite a long days ago. Chipset, so the driver for the VGA, and then an audio driver, again I think it's the Hyperion, via Hyperion driver. I found them all on the same site. Looking up, there was a motherboard website which had all of them, and the Broadcom LAN driver, which is a fairly generic one, so you can find an XP driver for that, and that seems to be all that's missing from the driver lists. I can't find, I don't think there's a Wi-Fi unit built in. I do have a little plug-in dongle which I can put in the secret dongle box if I really want to get it online, although I'm not really bothered about that. One thing when I'm installing the drivers is that because it's now detecting the pen drive as drive C, it's the first allocation, and then the hard drive that the XP is installed on as D. Some of the drivers I got didn't like that that it wasn't on C drive. We might try and change that later on once we've got the pen drive reliance out of the way, and use something like ESUS Partition Manager to reassign the drive to drive C, but I might just leave it if it's working. However, to get those drivers working, I ran them directly off the pen, so they still think they're on drive C, and that seems to have worked. I'm just installing the last driver now, which is the LAN, so that means I've done the audio, the chipset first, of course, the VGA next, the audio, driver, and then finally the LAN driver, and that should be all the list done, and we should have a working XP functional machine. So I'll go on to installing the software I need, which is the 2D design tools and ScanToCAD. To get that working, I'll have to install the Diamond Tools Lite to emulate a CD-ROM, but it's running quickly and relatively flawlessly. If I was going to go on for another nerd take, or geek take, I'd probably go on to try upgrade that memory to 4 gigabytes of RAM instead of 2, and stick Windows 10 on it. See how that copes with it. Other than that, that's me done. Have a good time, be nice to each other. As if I've done completely. School ideas, of course, important. If your school is spending around $100 plus on Raspberry Pi equipment, bear in mind that this is $25. The drive was $10, the cable was $10, so that's $45. And I can play around with memory pieces from other PCs. You can assemble these, you can get the students to try and install those different things, get them running Ubuntu, get them running Windows 10, Windows XP, installing software and stuff, and rebuilding, so it's a great little unit there. And then you can use these to do the rest of your projects on, such as programming and things. So if they wreck the computers, they're really at their own machines they're wrecking. So they're a lot less than currently a lot of IT departments are teaching their kids computing and networking. There's opportunity here to do it more relevantly and cheaper.